has considered the State Sector Management Bill and reports it with amendment and divided into the following bills: Research, Science and Technology Amendment Bill, the National Library of New Zealand Te Puna Mataranga o Aotearoa Amendment Bill, Public Records Amendment Bill number 2. Mr Speaker, I move the report be adopted.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The bills are set down for third reading forthwith.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
A point of order, the Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Sir, I seek leave to amend the ACT Party vote on the Smoke-Free Environments Controls and Enforcement Amendment Bill. It was a split vote. We're only entitled to vote for. The vote now stands at 2 votes in favour, 2 votes against.
Leave is sought to correct the record. Is there any objection? There is no objection. The record will be recorded. The Honourable Darren Hughes.
Speaker, in similar vein, I seek leave to correct the voting tally. There was a vote cast this morning for the Progressive Party, for the Honourable Jim Anderton, and that was cast in error. So if that could be deleted, I seek leave for that vote to be deleted from the record.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is no objection. The record will be corrected.
Particular bill was that?
Oh, yes.
Every bill.
Could I?
Okay.
He only cast one vote. Okay. Do you know which one it was?
Well, there's been so many, sir, but this one was one this morning.
The clerk's happy to look for that, to correct it in that line.
Just need to be twinked out, I think is the...
As you say.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Tony Roll.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Research, Science and Technology Bill, the National Library of New Zealand Te Puna Mataranga o Aotearoa Amendment Bill and the Public Records Amendment Bill be now read a third time. I'd like to start by thanking the Chair of the Education and Science Committee, Mr Alan Peachy, and the members of the committee and its staff for their work on what was formerly the State Sector Management Bill. I'd also like to acknowledge the Parliamentary Council Office, State Services Commission and affected agencies for their support. Mr Speaker, the passing of this legislation is important because it now provides certainty to the many staff who are working in the affected agencies. They were expecting the new Ministry for Science and Innovation to begin on the 1st of February, and they have been working towards that. And similarly, staff in the National Library and Archives New Zealand have been working towards their incorporation in the Department of Internal Affairs from the 1st of February next year, and the passing of this legislation enables them to do that. I think it's important, Mr Speaker, in referring to the debate that went on in the committee stage, to identify a number of features which I think need to be reported and stated in the third reading. Honourable Nathan Guy made it quite clear that in the view of the Crown Law Office, this legislation actually strengthens the independence of the National Archivist. And similarly, I would reject the criticism of the members opposite that statutory officers within departments cannot act independently. And Mrs Chadwick says, oh my God, as though there's a sense of disbelief. Well, actually, she should know that David Henry, a statutory officer in the Department of Justice, as Chief Electoral Officer, has shown that statutory officers act with great integrity when he revealed the fact that they had spent hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' dollars in the 2005 general election, when they ripped off the taxpayers to win the 2005 election.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Take offence at the statement the Minister's just made about the Labour Party. No, I ask that he withdraw and apologise.
You're objecting to...
Mr Speaker, but I'm objecting to the accusation he's made about MPs.
Well, there is a Speaker's ruling 44.5. If the member's take an objection, I'd ask the member to withdraw.
I withdraw, Mr Speaker. That was David Henry who showed that the Labour Party used public money that they had to pay back. And what do you call it when you use $800,000 $800,000 of taxpayers' money that they had to pay back. But I use that, Mr. Speaker, not to cause controversy, but just to alert the fact that statutory officers do act with independence, and we would expect that to happen in the incorporation of these agencies in the Department of Internal Affairs. The provisions contained in the bill mark the next step in the government's drive to ensure that its administrative arrangements are organised to deliver improved service at reduced cost in the short to medium term and to future-proof the delivery of government responsibility and services for the long term. What these and other changes add up to collectively is a commitment by the government not to impose a one-size-fits-all or blunt chop of significant numbers of government agencies, but to consider each sector on its own and to put in place administrative arrangements that are best suited for the sector. Research, science and technology. This bill combines the capabilities of Morst and Forst in a new department that will clearly lead the sector with a unified strategic policy direction, with more clarity and certainty around agency responsibilities, with reduced complexity and transaction costs across the system. The Public Records Amendment Bill and the National Library of New Zealand Amendment Bill will provide simpler and more effective governance approach for gathering, protecting and providing access to records and information that are vital to individual New Zealanders, communities, the government of the day and Parliament. Bringing together the National Library, Archives New Zealand and the Department of Internal Affairs will provide for better integrated decision-making and enable staff to draw on wider pools of expertise within a much larger corporate environment with reduced collaboration costs and lower corporate overhead. As the Honourable Nathan Guy said, all three of those agencies are embarking or are some way down the track of a massive digitalisation of their collections and information, and it makes a lot of sense to minimise and mitigate the risk of the future by bringing those three agencies together. It's actually a 21st century approach to archives and National Library rather than some sort of quaint reminisce of what it used to be like in the 1970s when trucks arrived from the National Library to give a few books to the school. So, Mr. Speaker, in summary, these pieces of legislation form the foundation, I think, of a better and more integrated and efficient administration of the government's role in research, science and technology, and for the gathering, protection and development of some of New Zealand's most important records, knowledge and information resources. The government welcomes the enactment of these bills. I think very importantly that we now, with the passing under this urgency, are able to provide greater certainty to the staff that are involved that the various agencies will be in a position to meet the 1st of February timeline for the beginning of these new agencies.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Grant Robertson.
Thank you.